Dave,
Yes, sir.
bring us in.
Hey, Stand Tall with Dave Brown. I'm here with producer Robbie Bobby. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Doing great. It was great to connect with you and our big fan Steve over the weekend, and Big Bob. Uh, had a great round of golf down in downtown Portland. Was pretty impressed. But I'll tell you the big news today, and this you were just telling me right before we came on that your phone's been ringing off the hook. I know exactly what's going on. People want you to know if you're going to be in on buying the Blazers because Paul Allen put them up for sale.
Really?
Yeah, that came out today. That the family's selling the Blazers. They're keeping the Seahawks and the Sounders and the Rema, but they're selling the Blazers apparently. So I
Wow.
figured people were calling you to see if you were in on that deal.
Yeah, we've talked about this NBA thing a little bit, and I probably wouldn't be really popular in those NBA meetings because my I love basketball. It's been one of the biggest things in my life all time. It's how I got through. It was my therapy as a kid. It really was to get through, the childhood I had. But boy, today's NBA is tough to watch. Rob, I'm telling you, I'm not a LeBron fan. I don't like everybody running all over the court with no dribbles and flopping and bopping and no defense, and they're only shooting threes. It's turned into a tough game to watch. But I'll always be a Blazer fan, and it goes back to the Jeff Petrie and Jim Barnett. In 1970, man, when you're a little kid back there in St. Louis, that was our team. And there'd be 2 or 3 thousand people at the old Memorial Coliseum at the games. I got to go to many of those games in middle school, high school, and literally, dude, there'd be like 2, 3, 4 thousand people there. You could buy a ticket cheap and then walk down, and they were an
Sure.
expansion team. Them and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Well, I didn't really hear a lot of the details like why they were selling the team, and of course they would never disclose a lot of that stuff, because it's a business move for them. But it's interesting that they're giving up their stake in the Blazers, the NBA, but they're keeping their stake with the Seahawks, and I think the soccer team, and I'm not sure if they're involved with the hockey team up in Seattle, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But does this pave the way for someone like Phil Knight or the Nike people to come in and swoop in, or do you think this is maybe they're not going to? I mean, maybe they have a bit of a conflict. I would think the Nike people and being right outside of Portland, but they're supplying all the uniforms and all the gear. I don't know how that would all work.
Well, obviously, the Knight family could easily afford this. They're some of the richest people in America. But I think exactly what you just said. It's not a good business decision for them. They went viral because of Michael Jordan and the Nike. So, that's not just the Blazers. That's every team across the NBA at that time. For them, it was the Bulls. And but I tell you, I think Phil Knight's a pretty darn smart businessman. People like him or they don't. I've never met him, don't know. You read all this stuff, but I
Mm-hmm.
think he's given a lot to this state. And I would just say, as an Oregonian, whether you like him or not, his stances, all that kind of stuff, for the most part, he even gives money to Oregon State, even though he's a U of O guy, and he gives money to other colleges too. So even though U of O, and that should be his prerogative, if U
Sure.
of O's his baby and that's where he went to school and his kids and stuff, I got no problem because he's been generous to Oregon State, my Beavs, and the Ducks have certainly benefited, but I don't think the Blazers are a good move for Nike to purchase because, they're still the major player in the world when it comes to basketball, shoes, the whole 9 yards. So,
And
big
I don't
news.
know,
Wow.
I don't know how that would all work out here because I know in different parts of the country, for instance, St. Louis, the Cardinals were owned for many years by Anheuser Busch, a huge company and a company that's done so much, and has been supportive of athletics at every level. But they were, one of the owners was of the brewery was one of the owners of the Cardinals back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So huge connection there. But who's I was just curious, like who would step up in a community like Portland? Because obviously they're not going to let the Blazers walk away. They're going to do everything they can. But is this going to be like a corporate thing, like Moda would come in and buy it up, or like even Moda's in the health business? They're not really in the business of running basketball teams.
Well, Did you hear any price tags on this? Because I got to think in the
No,
Blazers
no,
make
I
a
just
couple.
kind of saw the headline come across the old ticker today. I didn't really see a lot more about it, but I was gonna see if you knew anything about it. But I thought it was interesting because certainly they're such an institution out here in Portland and still beloved. I mean, they still pack the house, whether they're good or mediocre. They the fans don't give up on the team out here. That's one thing I will say about the Blazer fans. They still come out. They still support the team.
Yeah, right now I would think they would have to be very interested in moving the team to their place, wherever that might be. We've seen it happen before. I would hate to see that happen away from Portland because the team has been supported. You better be careful. These moving franchises, you've been part of it as a fan, and it's hard.
Mhm.
But I would think at least a couple billion, for today's NBA
Yeah.
franchise. And that, but there's a lot more people out there now that have made a lot of money. You look at, oh, what's his name? I've tried to forget it, but Hunter Biden, he could just sell a couple
Mhm.
of pieces of artwork and he could buy them. So,
That's
um,
yeah.
I don't know who would buy them. I think, boy, the NBA to me, though, I think the NBA's got some interesting years ahead, though, because they've got to solve this problem of the game has evolved to where it's at. It is what it is, and it's a lot of people are kind of like, it's not that much fun to watch. I think
And,
they need to bring the 3-point shot out of the corners and get it up free throw line extended. Because that will take away a lot of the spacing issues to come up and play tight D and stop giving up all these open threes. Because obviously the NBA, I mean, the percentage of threes being taken is off the charts. So, and it's kind of like not that much fun to watch when all you see is people jacking threes. You don't see wide open fast break basketball too much anymore. You'll see occasional breakaways and guys will dunk, but you don't see the passing fast breaks that these guys today are so athletic. If they would take a good playbook. I'll tell you what, if you wanted to be a successful franchise and you're in the bottom half of the NBA, they really ought to go back and watch the 76, 77 Trailblazers before the 3-point shot. I'm not saying don't take threes, but run people off the court. And then when you have to set up, you can look for your threes. Sure, it's a high percentage, shot, or it's worth more points. I get all the math. I've done it. And as a high school
yeah.
coach, we did the same thing. Threes are worth three, twos are worth two. So I don't like funky rules. The 3-point shot was experimental coming out of the old ABA with Rick Barry and Julius Erving, George McGinnis, Caldwell Jones, Dan Issel. They're the ones that had the 3-point shot well before the NBA.
So Dave, let me ask you: you were a coach, so
Yep.
you ever get kind of a sad sack player, a guy who just wasn't very good, kind of, you know,
A couple
Norman,
of those.
Buckwheat Diffeldecker type of guy, just wasn't
Yep.
really had things going, but you end up keeping him because he was good for the team and stuff. How do I guess with a guy like Buckwheat, how do you coach a guy like that up to be just palpable, but also to you know, uh, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that, you know, you're handed who you're handed for the most part. And a guy like Buckwheat, you have to work with him no matter what. How do you see the good in a guy like that? Like, how do you bring out the strength? The guy's just tripping over his shoelaces. How do you see a good in a guy like that as a coach?
No, it's a good question. I've had kids like that start for me. I've had a couple of bad teams. So, but I think you have to look at the human before you look at the player. And a lot of coaches don't do that. I did because I'm looking at the value of the human being. And there were kids like that just weren't very good. They definitely weren't. They weren't starter. They weren't in the rotation players. They were the 12th guy on a 13-man team, so to speak. And I would keep a kid like that with a fantastic attitude. But I'd have to sit down with him and say, Buckwheat, here's the situation. This is, in today's team today, this year, this is your role. And I'm explaining it to you before I give you a roster spot that this is what it is. And I think if you're really open and honest with a kid like that, they really appreciate that. But I will tell you, more times than not, it's hard to be that kid because it's a tough spot to be in, knowing you're not going to play hardly at all. And I think I had a little bit more sympathy when I kind of looked at a game, Rob, with third, fourth quarter, depending on who you're playing. If I'm playing a team like, say, a West Lynn or a Jesuit here in Oregon with the team I don't have one guy that makes their top 8, 9, 10. Not one guy. So we're down 20 with 5 minutes to go. We're not beating that team that night. You have to just be realistic and say,
Yeah.
all right, Buckwheat, this is your time to shine, baby. You got
Yeah.
5 minutes and he's going to suck because he sucks anyway, but that's not the point. He's at practice every day. He has a good attitude. You got to play him in those situations. You got to give him, a little of that. And I think a lot of coaches miss that entirely. They wait till 40 seconds to go in the game. They're still down 20 and now they play Buckwheat. That's a little embarrassing to the kid, because his buddies up in the stands that wrestle or don't play basketball, they know they grew up with the kid. They're in PE with him every day. They know his limitations, but you get Buckwheat in the game and 3 minutes to go, he sticks a 15-footer. The place goes nuts too. It doesn't matter about the scoreboard. We're already getting our tails kicked, but so no, it's a great question though. I think a lot of coaches need to look at the reality.
Anybody can coach the superstars. Superstars are easy. They kind of coach themselves.
No, they're not. The best players are the hardest ones to coach. They really are because they can have some laziness about them. They've gotten away with stuff with other coaches. I won't put up with people who don't play hard. So if they don't play hard, I'm not playing them. I don't care if it's Larry Bird. I'd set Larry Bird down. Larry Bird was the same kind of coach. He wouldn't have any respect for you if you let him slack off. So the best players are always difficult because they're more competitive. They're better. They get frustrated with the Buckwheat Niffeldickers of the world. They their parents usually have higher expectations. They're thinking about college ball, so they're more maintenance. They really are.
So I wanted to, and I'm not expecting you to know any of the details, and this may be the first time you even heard of this story, but interesting story out of St. Helens, right down the road from where we are. A youth baseball game, little girls. Girl just rocks one to the shortstop, like hits it off the shortstop's leg, whatever. Well, the coaches of the opposing team run out and start accusing the other coaches of that the girl is over 11. That she's too big to be an 11-year-old, and you're lying about your age. Like, it's really made a scene, and really, the girl's crying, and the mom's in the stands and saying, "Oh, my kid's 11." But these three yahoos, there were, pictures of it in social media. I'm sure it's going to get picked up in the news. Just really took this little girl to task because they were overzealous coaches about this kid not being 11, which she was, just big for her age, but just humiliated this little girl. If you get a chance, you'll be kind of maybe hearing about this story. I think it's gonna
softball or baseball.
I think it might have been like girls softball. It was. I know it was a girl. There was a girls team, and the opposing coaches just. I don't know who they were playing, but they just came out swinging, accusing the St. Helens girl of not being 11 years old. But it brings to the point, not necessarily the facts of that whole case, just people need to settle the hell down when they're dealing with youth sports. You've seen it on the other side as a coach. What can you tell people about, staying in the moment?
Well, the problem is a lot of these youth coaches. And by the way, girls just grow a little faster sometimes at the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade level, and they'll be taller than a lot of the boys. And then it's just what happens. And then next thing you know, by the time they're a freshman, sophomore, they might be 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and the boys, many of them have passed her up. But that is one fact I've seen. If it's softball, girls grow at very different rates. Boys grow at different rates. The problem I see, Rob, is the coaches I grew up with when I was coaching youth sports, and then as a high school coach, seeing it and going out and watching this and trying to help them, is at the high school level, you have to pass a lot of tests through the Oregon State Athletic Association. Every state has something like this. And every year you have to take these same tests over and over. They can get pretty redundant and boring. But it reminds you of first aid. It reminds you of sportsmanship. It reminds you. It's coaches training. The problem we have with Park and Rec AAU type coaches, most of the time, a lot of these coaches aren't giving, good training, and that's the problem. They're not showing how to handle that situation. And then all of a sudden, they get a little competitive, it gets a little wonky. Maybe they're down 4-2 and, or 2-4, and uh, they're embarrassed a little bit as a coach, in front of their parents, and it can get out of hand quick, man. I've seen it. This is a really true story. I'm coaching a guy who I knew, actually went to church with him at the time. And I'm not even kidding. I got a parent come up to me. I'm running all the sports soccer Saturday, right? Jakewood Park, not very far from your house.
Yeah.
And we're talking about little kids. This is early in the morning. So this was the day the little kids, it was their turn to go early. So we're talking an 8 o'clock game. And I got a parent come up and say, I got a guy down here, dropping the F-bomb on his kids. We're talking K1 soccer.
Mm.
Kindergarten, first grade. He's dropping F-bombs. And I'm looking down and I go, who? And they said, that guy. I knew who he was.
Mm.
So I go down there and I got parents kind of saying a few things on my way through. I'm in charge of, everything. And I'm like 35 years old. I just walked straight out on the field, told the referee time, and I said, coach is right here. And referees right here. So I wanted to show the referees how to handle this. I didn't really know how to handle it. We're talking kindergarten, first grade. He's dropping F-bombs. And so I pulled both coaches. The one coach not doing anything wrong, but as a referee, I always pulled both coaches in because that way it doesn't look like you're picking on one guy. So that's the right way to handle it. And then I had the referees there. They're high school kids. I want them to learn how to handle this conflict. So I look at this guy. I know who he is. I don't want to say his name right now. And I looked at him. I said, dude, you didn't really just drop the F-bomb on your kindergarten first graders, did you? And his head goes down. And the referees are high school kids, and they're going like this, and the other coach is going like this. And I said, you really didn't drop the F-bomb, did you? And his head goes lower. And then I said, you didn't really drop the F-bomb, did you? And he goes, yeah, I did. I'm so sorry. I'll never do it again. And I said, well, here's how we're going to handle today. I said, who helps you with this team? He points over at some mom. And I said, can you come here, please? And I'll just say her name was Cindy. And I said, Cindy, you're going to be the coach for the next probably 2 or 3 or 4 games until we decide what's going to happen with Bubba here. Bubba, you're going to go home right now. And I think you should, if you're Catholic, go to confession. If you go to a Protestant church, just pray a whole lot. But do something to get your clouds in heaven back, because you got to go. You're going to go home, because this is no place for that. You need to go home now and just thank the lucky stars that we're not going to tar and feather you. Just go home right now. Just go. His kids are on the team. His wife's there, though. And so he leaves. He goes home. And I know later she had to call him up and say, come back and get me. I'm stuck. So anyway, that was one of the craziest ones ever, because the parents were just blown away and stunned at this. So I think there was 5 games to go in the season. We suspended him for 3 games. We made him write letters to everybody on both teams and apologize to the referees and apologize. And he did. He was a good guy, but he got caught up in the moment, and he just kind of lost all sense of common sense.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be consistent with youth sports that people just lose their mind over youth sports. I mean, I think even at high school level, there's a little bit more of a boundary, because I think the coaches, they don't want parents on the sideline. They don't want parents. But at the, I had worked at a private high school, and it was when lacrosse became really a big sport in the Midwest. And lacrosse, we used to joke around, it's the only sport where they would let the dads come down on the sidelines and be coaches, and it was just chaos. It wasn't good for anyone. The coach didn't have control of the team. The dads were all trying to outdo each other. They were giving them conflicting advice and coaching. So it ended up being a huge mess. So we used to kind of be in the athletic department, used to kind of laugh about it and not really say it's not really a real sport if they let your dad on the sideline.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of dads, and I will say I coached my youth sports in our town here where we live today. Rob, the way they do it is the Park and Recreation District will have everybody come to a gym, and all the parents show up with their kids. They're not on a team, and they literally have tried to call ahead to get some coaches. Let's say they got 10 teams, 20 teams. They try to have a coach, there, and then they start pulling kids out. Well, if you and I are coaching together, a lot of parents get together and try to get the best kids on the same team. So there's that kind of crap going on. And then got to have Bill's kid too, because we're going to carpool. Now he's the other best player, and then you got to have Bob's kid over here, because now they got half their team handpicked already, and so I guess it gets out of hand. But they're scrambling for coaches. These are all volunteer parents, bless their heart. They just need a little more direction and training before the season starts. Like it's amazing how little training they get. Now here's another level. You want to go to another level, go to AAU sports.
Oh,
Now
wow,
you're
yeah.
talking wigged out, paying money. We're paying money. You're gonna pay $2,000 for your kid, $3,000 for your kid, $4,000 for your kid to be on that club soccer, basketball, football, baseball,
Yeah.
lacrosse, doesn't matter. Now you've got money invested in this thing, and that's not even counting the money it's gonna take you and your wife to go travel to these tournaments.
Hotels and everything. Yeah.
It's crazy,
Food.
Rob. This was
Yeah.
happening 30 years ago. Trust me, I was there. And
The other one is people who get private coaches. They get, like
Say what?
private, they'll get like an ex-pro to be the coach of the kids. And the guy will go to the ball field and watch the kid throw and tell him he's okay that's the other thing. People spend a ton of money on that kind of thing too,
Well, today I'm walking Lucy. Lucy's our,
producer.
producer with Rob and my chocolate lab. And we're walking down by the Catholic church, your church. And there's a dad out there playing catch with his son. Not a bad little athlete. Dad's doing a great job. Good job, Dad. He's playing catch with his son. That's what you need to do to just father-son connection, get some baseballs flying, throw the football, shoot baskets. It's, every dad should be doing that all the time with their son or daughter. Anyway, I watched this kid throw, and I noticed he was short arming it a little bit, So instead of having a proper, throwing motion, coming back, I'm trying to get this on camera. You come back, and bring your arm back. He was short arming it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Not a bad throwing motion, but he's still coming, just barely behind the shoulder blade. And the dad either doesn't know or is not watching him. I saw him throw like 5 balls. I'm walking my dog. It's not my job to stop and, hey, kid, you want to be twice as good, learn mechanics. So I would suggest to all the parents out there, Rob, we got this thing called YouTube we never had in the past. YouTube, this son of stuff, how to shoot a basketball, how to throw a baseball, how to kick a soccer ball, how to throw a football, and how to hold a baseball bat, a tennis racket, whatever. And it's all on YouTube. And go out and play with your kids and show them the right way. It's right there for you to do.
Yeah.
Right there.
So what else you got on the agenda? What's going on this week for you? And we had Mother's Day. First of all, belated Happy Mother's Day to all of our mothers on our,
Yes.
and Janie, I know she's going to listen to the show. Happy Mother's Day.
Paige, Janie, your wife Amanda, my wife Judy, Rose, Nicole, all these different moms that we know through the show. Happy Mother's Day. I think it's Father's Day gets, that's like a freshman level holiday compared to Mother's Day. I mean, and that's the way it should be.
Well, you know what it is, and this is the deal. It's because Mother's Day is the kids are still in school, so they can always work on projects. Father's Day, you just get a card. That's it. It's homemade draw, which is fine. It's beautiful. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but the moms are peacocking around because they're getting flowers and jewelry and all kinds of nice stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like a certificate for a bucket of balls, golf balls. I mean, a golf shirt. I mean, a golf hat. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, come on, baby. We need some. Dads need love too. I think my kids are always were really nice, but moms deserve.
Oh yeah.
They deserve it, just flat out. But the day before, we got to talk about this a little bit. You came to Oregon about 3 years ago from Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
And we've talked about sports, but we never got to do anything at all. We've just done this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Saturday, we pick up 2 other guys, including our top fan, Steve. and we go to Eastmoreland in Portland, Oregon, down by the
Yep.
Selwood district. And it, of course, was built in 1918. And for me, the best part of the day, besides hanging out with you guys, was that cheeseburger I had after we were done was money, man. That thing was good.
It
What'd you
wasn't.
get?
Look, I got the buffalo wrap. It wasn't. It was huge. It was big. It fell apart. It was so big, but it was good. It was good. It hit the spot.
My cheeseburger. That thing was pretty dang good. I mean, that was all right. So my first reaction, I want to tell Steve, thank you. I hated that golf course. Hated it.
Oh, that was
Hated
tough. It
it.
was a tough course, man.
Big trees, both sides, narrow fairways. They didn't trim the trees. I mean, 6 feet off the ground, you had to duck. You get a ball under those things at all, and you try to hit out. No, you're going to hit a branch every time. Must have hit 8 trees. Kills your
Yeah, I
stroke.
think I hit about 2 or 3 breaks. But first of all, Steve, thank you for organizing it. You're a number one fan. You got us hooked. We're hooked, line and sinker now, man. And actually, I connected with Steve, and I told him I would go out and hit balls with him and stuff. And and you and me, we just got to do this golf thing as a living. That's all we need to do. Every day, all of us just play golf. Do the
I
show.
played the last 3 days.
Oh, really?
I played on my own, out working hard on the game. So I've had a blast the last 3 days. I've gotten better too. So I mean, I'm just working on stuff, and yeah, not just the driving range, but out on the course.
You were knocking them dead, man. I don't know what your score was. I was well over 100. I'll be very upfront and very transparent.
You want me to tell you?
I got a long ways to go. But
This is a tough course. So how many sand traps? I mean, I must have hit 5 sand traps, hit 8 trees, lost a couple balls. I shot a 105.
105, yeah.
Steve shot a 95. He's normally he's right at 92, 91.8. He's better than us for sure.
Sure.
I shot a 105. I haven't shot a 105 since Nom. That course just, yeah. I won't tell you what you had, but it was worse than mine.
Oh, mine was 124. Mine was terrible.
But you have all the potential. The first till you run out of gas, you were on that St. Louis airtime. You played a pretty good front nine. You had some shots.
I'll tell you, the back nine, it hit the trees. I hit like 3 trees, hitting the water.
Oh man,
just
that's a
killed
tough
me.
course.
And then
Tough
my
course.
short, the other thing is putting. You either got it, although I hit a couple putts, but that putting on those greens, those were a little tough. But had a great time, and again, I appreciate really the fellowship we all. Even Bob, big old Bob, boy, he was knocking around too. I'm not sure what his score was, but he was probably right at about 105, something like that.
No, I think he was more about 110.
110, okay.
Yeah, we all struggled. I mean, those are high scores. So yeah, I mean, I played a lot better today. I won't tell you what I shot today, but it was impressive compared to that.
Yeah, like the front nine, like I said, was really beautiful, picturesque. There are a couple of holes. I think Steve was like, "Oh, this is their signature hole," and for me, it was like over water, and I was like, "Okay, I might as well just throw my ball in the water," So, and I did. I ended up, zooming right in the water. But
Are you
anyway,
talking about 18,
I don't think it was 18. I thought it was.
where we had to hit over the water?
Had hit over the water to the green.
147 yards in the air.
Yeah, it wasn't bad, but I just shanked it in.
If I played that hole again, what I'd do, I would hit to the right, and I would come in over. I could hit that shot, just hit a little pitching wedge over there, 9-iron, be safe, and I would come back in at 2, and hopefully hit a great shot from there from about 75 yards.
That's what I was thinking about. As I was like, yeah, that probably would have been a better strategy to hit over there. There's another hole. We kind of went over a bridge. I don't know. I just had to chink it up, and I ended up hitting the branch and went straight down, hit the water. So I had about 3 branches that cost me big strokes, and at least four strokes in the water. So
Hey, I still got your Nike pitching wedge. It's in my bag.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I have that. I think, isn't it funny about golf though? Sticking on this golf thing for a second. I'm working at the golf course out here now, and seeing all the different kind of golfers come in and out. But the other day we had 4 younger guys. I never coached them directly, but I knew them through the high school, right?
Yeah.
I did coach one of them, and a great kid named Garth. Love Garth. And so he's playing with some buddies who I knew. Another kid that I coached in basketball almost hit him 3 times.
Right.
They're all playing 18. So I didn't know what happened until afterwards. I'm working in the pro shop, and this kid who's 30 years old now, he's not a kid.
Yeah.
He hits a pretty big ball, and he whips it into him. Like one of them rolled up in their feet. This happens 3 times. So I guess there were some words and some words, and there's some words. Well, the kid hitting into him is about 6'3.5". He's a tall kid, but he's playing with his wife. He hits into this group of kids that are, a few years older than him. And so then I'm walking outside to do something. The kid that hits into him, I don't want to say names. He came in and apologized to him. So it got all sorted out at the end. I don't know if he bought him a beer or whatever. And so I'm talking to him, and then about an hour later, the other guy I'm working with tells me the whole story, what happened. I was like, okay, so golf is such a goofy game because we had 3 guys that were walking behind us on Saturday. We're in golf carts, but we were playing pretty slow. I'd like to play a little quicker. And those 3 guys walking, they were pretty fast.
Yeah, I think they were scratch golfers though too. They weren't missing many shots.
Yeah. So
if anything, mea culpa, I'm the one that probably slowed everybody down because I was
no,
a
it
little
was
bit
Bob.
further
It
away,
was totally Bob.
Yeah, now we were both. This is both of us, I guess. But it was fun to get out there, and I enjoy playing with you and Steve and Bob. It makes me want to get better. It doesn't just get me to resign. Oh, I'm no good. So yeah.
I think if you played like half a dozen times, you get your game back. You've played some good golf in the past. Steve and I both noticed that. So I think golf's one of those things where people talk about it being a dumb game. It's one of the dumbest games ever, but it's so difficult to go out there and play this game well. But I will say, the more I practice and the more I hit, it's just like everything else. You just get a little better, a little better, a little better. I think it's a great game for adults to play. People our age can go out there and play, have fun, and still be competitive. And so golf's. I mean, our days of playing city league basketball and softball and racing motorcycles, that stuff happened in another lifetime for me ago. I loved every second of it. I'm so glad I got all those opportunities, Rob, to travel and play ball in different arenas and places. But those are young men sports, and we're older. Golf you can do. Pickleball is, I can still play a pretty good game of tennis, but I haven't hurt my legs or hips or anything like a lot of people have. But golf's good for, the thing about golf, you got kids out there hitting, and you got a lot of high school kids in early 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 70s and 80s out there whipping that golf ball around. It's a good game. You got men and women playing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had a good time with it. Listen, I was going to tell you, there's President Trump was up with the Saudi prince today.
Yes.
He's working on what he claims to be a multi-level $1 trillion deal with the Saudis. What do you know? What are you thinking? Are you optimistic? I know he's been kind of
Totally optimistic.
everyone's been shading him about it, but it's a pretty good economic deal. What are you hearing?
I watched the whole thing today. The opulence of what the Saudis have, just the room they were in, these big lounger chairs, and of course they're in their native, white robes and the way they, do their hoods and everything like that. It's very elegant, but there was a lot of Westerners in there too. But President Trump, over his right shoulder was a video screen that was massively big of the entire American flag. And on this side was the Saudi flag. And it was kind of funny, though. They're talking about peace, and just below part of the Saudi flag is like this big old sword stuff. So, but he got a standing ovation. I don't know his name. I don't want to be disrespectful. The leader of the Saudis was sitting in the front row, and him and President Trump have bonded over this whole thing. And they are putting together a massive economic investment that's going to benefit both countries. What people don't get with their Trump derangement syndrome, or people that just don't understand diplomacy, is the reason they love Trump over there is because it's a win-win. He's willing to go there to Saudi Arabia. Biden never went, would never done. And if Trump's smart enough to talk to them on their terms, all the big new buildings they built. He's built those things. He knows how impressive and how much work it took to get all these new massive skyscrapers built over there in their country. And so they know he's smart to do all this stuff. They know he's already a billionaire. He's not just some politician dude.
Mhm.
Tim Walz and Bernie Sanders never had a dime until they grifted off the economy of government. And, Trump made all those billions on his own before he ever gets to the White House. So I think he did a great job. Like usual, he rambles a little bit in his speech, but he was
Mhm.
very complimentary of the Saudi people, very respectful, and that's a big deal to them. So I thought he did great.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed that let's say the left leaning media, they still don't seem to try to find things to pick apart about
Yeah.
some of these economic policies, and it's I remember I just recently there's a guy named Robert Reich who used to be the secretary department treasurer under the Clintons, and he's out there every day bashing President Trump, and just the other day I read where someone that I know personally, keyboard warrior, just out against Trump, just really couldn't stand him, and for years and years just posting some of those vile, disgusting things that that was against Trump, his family, his wife. Well, he decides I want to jump in the race. I'm going to, throw my hat in the ring, and he tries to run for a position in his little southern state. No, he found out he couldn't do it. He doesn't grease the right hands. He doesn't. It's all a scam. He said that here's a guy who just wants to stand up and was so sick of the Republicans and wants to take control. The Dems basically shut him out. Said nope, too aggressive. We don't want you.
Yeah, I think, now,
Isn't that crazy though? That people like
yeah.
they're losing people and people want to join them and they don't really want them around. It's become like some exclusive club, like the AOC Bernie Club.
Well, I tell you, it's amazing how they can talk about how they feel like he's bad and dishonest, and you watch what they do. Look what the Democrats did with the ICE facility back there in Newark, New Jersey. You've got the mayor of the Newark town bumping in and pushing and shoving on police officers. Can you imagine in our hometown, Rob? I mean, I'm dead serious, dude. We go up and we want to body chest a police officer. How do you think that's going to go? Not very well, man.
There's some big boys out here. They're country bred out here, man.
They're
They'll
going to
take you
drop you
down
like
with
a
a
hot
one armed
rock. You're
fist.
handcuffed in the back seat of a squad car. You
Yeah,
think it's cushy? Nope, it's all hard plastic back there. You're going to be
yeah.
in that thing going to jail overnight, and you're
You
going to
know
have to go before a
the
judge
thing
out
about
here.
it, Dave, is the hero life is the 30 seconds you're on your little camera phone video. The rest of the time you're in cuffs. That's not a hero's life.
Well, you can't. The thing about this whole thing with Newark is like you can't go. They were physically trying to force things with the ICE officers and then the police officers. They're totally making physical contact. They are totally being disruptive. They are totally in the wrong, and they should be up for assault. And the legislature from the House of Representatives and the Senate, they've got to be held accountable for this. The rest of the House or the Senate, whichever one she was, she's one wearing all red. She should be if she's not expelled, she should be censored and seriously put in trouble. And I think if we start following our laws again in our country, then she might go, oh, I can't just get away with whatever I want to do. Our laws have to be applicable to everybody. And that's why DEI and all this kind of stuff doesn't work, because we have to have the same laws for everybody. And that's not the way they're looking at it. They thought, oh, it's fine. We'll just go in there and cause chaos and we can get on our camera.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, speaking of laws, probably the most sensationalized trial of the month, I
P.
should say.
Diddy.
P. Diddy, yeah, it's all going on, but let's say what Hollywood's given us some real cliffhangers. Way back in the 20s when, remember old Fatty Arbuckle? He was this big actor, real popular guy in the 20s. Well, he had actually smothered a stripper when he was, having relations with her, and actually ended up being charged with murder, and was this really huge publicity trial, and that's what kind of got started this whole culture of publicity, celebrity trials. Did you know that?
I did not know that one. I know that the what's the Mendez brothers just got another 50 years in
Yep,
prison.
yep. That's
So
another one.
I mean, they killed their parents brutally. So sad, 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 sad. The whole thing's sad, but they deserve to go to jail. P. Diddy's up again, and see where this one flies. I mean, there's a
It's
lot.
not pretty though, man, Dave. It's not pretty for him right now. It's not looking good. Some of the early testimony's been pretty graphic.
Yeah, I think he's going to jail. He's going to be gone. But
Yeah.
he should be. But how many other people are going to get drug into this thing with him? That's the
Well,
question.
it's a situation where money and power goes to your head, and you just start doing things that aren't, you know, that aren't normal or illegal or criminal. So,
Well,
uh,
it happens to you and me all the time. I mean, we've got all this power and money that's coming our way now, and we're like, what are we going to do? I mean, we're golfing on Saturdays instead of doing our job with the podcast. Power and money. Money's power.
I know I took the family to Gem 100 too.
Ooh,
We had some ice cream the other day.
you get the root
They're
beer freeze with vanilla ice cream?
what's that?
You get the root beer freeze with vanilla ice cream?
Oh no, no,
I
no.
told
Just
you
that.
that's what you're supposed to get.
No, I'll tell you what. My father-in-law, he loves their banana splits. He's probably the only one in town that still gets a banana split, but he loves
No,
that banana split. So the root beer float is the thing I got to try, huh?
no, not root beer float. No, listen up, focus up. Root beer freeze with vanilla ice cream. It'll
Root beer
change your
free
life. It'll
with
change your life. I've had so many people in the last 25 years get those, and they're like, my life is better. I'm
well,
changed. I have more
well,
joy
what's
in my
what's
life.
the difference between that and a root beer float?
Root beer float is vanilla ice cream with root beer poured into it. So you
Yeah,
got
yeah, just like take a
this
can
is
of root beer.
this is like halfway to a milkshake,
Huh.
but way better. So a little bit of spoon at the end, a little bit of straw. It's incredible. You can only get them at Gym 100, Newburgh, Oregon. Eric Harrison, owner, operator. He was the Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year this year. Eric Harrison, Gym 100.
Wasn't it wait, I thought someone else had owned. He's the new owner down there, or is he the older?
He bought it from his father-in-law.
Oh, Tom. Yeah, Tom used to own it, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
he's
Tom.
out.
Yeah.
Eric bought it
Tom
from
is
him.
actually a parishioner. He's from the same parish of
Oh, is he?
goes up the
Good
same
guy.
people. Yeah, yeah, I like
Did
them.
did a ton
And,
for our community.
small town America, little ice cream shop. They
Yeah.
got all kinds of old advertising on the wall.
It's a hamburger. Yeah, good
What's it? Oh,
burgers.
oh yeah, yeah. I'll tell you the thing I like is their fish and chips. I mean, you get some good fish and chips
Yes,
there.
good call. Their
Yeah,
fish and chips. If you took their fish and chips and they weren't on paper, and that kind of stuff, and you put them on a nice glass plate, and you had the trimmings at some of these nicer restaurants we have in town, everybody that would go there would buy them for $25. They're better
yeah,
than for they think they're $9.75, aren't they, Jim 100?
something like that. Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
They're
You know
good.
me. You know me, Dave. Money's no object. I just throw it out, whatever they say.
Money's
Put it on the
power. Power's
card. Put
money.
it on the card.
Put it on the card. It's no problem. Bring me a second order. Here you go.
Yeah.
One of the funniest scenes ever is in Dumb and Dumber when they're up to pay the bill, and what was his name? Fish Hook or whatever, the guy, the truck driver, and
Oh
Dumb and
yeah.
Dumber, and they're going, they're motion like that, and put on the check, and he does, and then they get out and they take off. So, no,
Fish Hook was actually Cam Neely, was a professional hockey player for many years. He played the role of Fish Hook.
that's the guy who did that.
Yeah,
I did
Cam
not
Neely.
know that.
Yeah, I believe so. I have to check out. I have to check that again, but I believe he's
Really?
associated with that role. Yeah. Anyway, but hey, Dave,
Well,
go ahead.
no, I'm just going to say, let's go a couple of movies here. I was just thinking about this today. I'm a big John Wayne fan. I'm looking at the big wood carving that we have here in the studio. And, the Road to El Dorado is my favorite John Wayne movie of all time. Just, I mean, whenever I'm having a day, I just
I'll
play
see your El Dorado, and I'll raise you in Outlaw Josie Wales.
Great movie. Not as good, but it was a great movie.
That movie. I love that. I love Clint Eastwood.
Okay, you like Clint Eastwood? Have you seen
Yeah,
Where Eagles
old
Dare?
stuff. What's that?
Where Eagles Dare, 1968.
No,
with
I'll have to
Richard
check that
Burton.
out.
You've never seen that?
No, I'll have to see it.
You got to YouTube this tonight. Just YouTube it and get a flavor. Richard Burton, only movie I've ever seen I liked with him, and Clint Eastwood, World War II, Where Eagles Dare. I'm not going to give anything away. It's one of the best war movies, any kind of movie of all time.
Okay, I'll check it out. We were talking the other day about the Guns of Navarone. Remember that?
Great
I was,
movie.
yeah, it's a
Who was the
great
star
movie.
of that movie? Do you know?
Robert Mitchum or no,
Nope.
Peter Graves?
Nope.
Oh,
David Niven.
oh yeah. Okay, yeah,
There's a couple other big actors in that one too.
yeah.
What about The Great Escape? Who was the star of that one?
Great Escape was Marlon Brando or James
No.
Dean?
Huh?
James Dean?
No. Come on, The Great Escape. Steve McQueen.
Oh, Steve McQueen. That's right. He was also in the Towering
And then Charles
Inferno.
Bronson played a small role in that movie.
Hey, Dave, I got to hold you up for a second. I also want to just remind folks that if they want to catch our shows, they can subscribe to the podcast. We are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Just hit the subscribe button. And if you want to leave us a review, that really helps us get our show out. Let us know how we're doing and gives us a way to gauge certain topics. And we know what's resonating with people. So again, check us out on Apple Podcast. Check us out on Spotify. And on our website, it's podcast.standtallwithdavebrown.com. Sign up there. You can get all kinds of reminders. It could be part of our movement as we're beginning our efforts here to get America to stand tall. Dave, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, also go to Instagram, X, TikTok. We do a lot of reels on there, and we're just about ready to launch the updated version of the website. It's going to have an editorial page, Rob, and you're going to be a big part of that. We want to have a written page on our website with standtallwithdavebrown.com because I like to read, you like to read, and a lot of people we've gotten their feedback, and so we want to have short op-eds, a little bit longer op-eds. They'll be filtered in some pictures in there, so it's kind of fun to look at that portion. So you should be able to come in and get a podcast like Rob's saying, and then you come over and the other side. We're hoping to get the reels on there, and we've done literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reels. Some are very short, some of them are a little bit longer.
And some of them have been very popular. They've gotten like millions of views all across the world.
Yeah, 15 million was a big one. Podcast still though, we're still growing in Ghana. They love us in Ghana with the podcast, but we have more guests coming. Our sponsor, we've been working with them now for months, and we're excited, and we're really hoping to bring a lot more guest content to you guys. And so Rob and I, and then Paige and I, we're excited about it. Remember, we go education, politics, Jesus, sports, and people. We feel like those 5 categories. Tonight we've spent a lot of time on sports. Rob and I love sports a great deal. Rob's a big time hockey guy. Rob, I want to learn more about hockey through you on this. I really do. I like to know more about sports, but I like to learn it from people like you that are much more knowledgeable than I am. I'll teach you about basketball and stuff like that. But
I will tell you, since you coach basketball to understand how to move the ball and how, you how to, sometimes it takes you 6, 7 different passes and different passing lanes. Hockey's all about that as well. So it's about the way you approach the goal and the way you set yourself up for the best type of shot. So if you can understand that sort of conceptually, you'll pick it up just fine. You have to be able to skate though too.
I always had really tough ankles, so skating for me just hurt my ankles. But
Mm-hmm.
I admire when I watch hockey. You remember back when we were kids, we had the hockey game with the thingy bobbers, the internet.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
on rainy days we were on our front porch just playing that for hours.
The bubble hockey they called it.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun doing that for hours, Rob. And then if we really wanted to get in a fight, though, we went straight up Monopoly. Just they're always ended in a fist fight. Monopoly.
Yeah.
Just,
I'll tell you what, my wife Amanda and her family, they don't mess around when it comes to Monopoly. They'll play, and they actually write on the inside of the box who won the game. So they got games going all the way back to 1992. They write.
great idea.
They do, yeah.
A lot of history
They're
there.
into it. Yeah.
I think that's a good one. We get closer to the end here, but that's a good one. I think for a lot of families, Rob, like, you got two kids, what, 8 and 10, 9 and 10,
10, 11, 9 and 11.
9, 11. I mean, Judy and I still play games. We sit down and play, crowns, 5 crowns, it's a little card game.
Mm.
People play cribbage, a lot of younger people are starting to play cribbage again. Turn off the TV, sit down and start playing some old fashioned games. We like to play Mexican Train. We like to play dominoes. That's Mexican Train is dominoes.
One thing I'd like to just encourage people is to lean into a game that's just kind of out there you would never even think about. For instance, I saw the game Mancala. And I was like, what's Mancala? Well, it's a game where you move stones. It's really interesting. I'll tell you what, Dave, I'm addicted to it. I love the game.
You
I
have to
can play it
show
all
me.
day. Yeah, I'll have to show you sometime. It's a strategy game. It goes way back, millions of years, billions of years to this early Indian civilization, and it's just pretty interesting. But
Oh, no.
it's the type of thing that if you don't get into it, you'd be like, I don't really like this. And I get it. Games are all relative. You either like it or you don't. I understand that.
Well, I think, too, it's like, you know, it allows you more of that human interaction than rather just TV. And that's why it's fun to have people over and play games. There's games out there, like Judy and I play 5 crowns. We can do it together. It's fun to do with 3 or 4 people. Mexican Train's a blast with 4 people. It's a great way to just have somebody over, have a little dessert, and play a game. And I think it goes back to Rob. We can kind of tap out today. People are your best investment. So that's why it's one of our 5 big categories, because people are involved in politics, they're involved in education, they're involved in Jesus, they're involved in sports. So people's stories are always the best. And I think for you out there, our audience, and for us, it's like Saturday for us to go golf with 4 guys. We had a blast. It's more fun to do that and, go out and meet people, talk to people, go talk to your neighbors. Don't be bashful. Make a plate of cookies, man. It's always a great icebreaker. And, make some fudge, make a cake, whatever. And just, hey, live across the street. How you doing? My name is, Dave Brown. What's up? Judy and I do that. And I'll tell you what, you get to know people a lot quicker. They appreciate it. You're investing a little bit in people. Friday night, we did our Newburgh Dundee Strong. It's a potluck. We have a great time, about 50, 60 people.
Yeah, you got to tell me when the next one is. I need to get up there for one of those. You got to tell me when the next one is.
Yeah, we have a blast doing it. It's a people connector. And then, anytime you got food on the table, it's good, But I think everybody out there just, man, the other thing too, Rob, is like right now, you got state tournaments in say in our state, but I'm sure it's the same everywhere. Right now, this weekend, you're looking at state tournaments or playoffs in baseball, softball, track, tennis, golf. It's happening right now. So instead of sitting around, when are we going to do this? Go do, you might pay $8, for a state baseball game. Go to a game. Go to a state playoff game and look them up. Get on. It's so easy to do now on, like in Oregon, it'd be the same thing in other states. If you just go into YouTube or on Google and just go OSAA and state baseball and it'll softball or tennis, it'll tell you where everything's at. Go there, drive there, watch it. Super fun.
I'll tell you what, though, one thing I will say, having a whole lifetime of this type of stuff, many high schools are ill-equipped to be hosting huge events that have, 10, 15,000 people show up because they don't have the parking, they don't have the facilities, and they really struggle with that sort of thing. It's always nice to say you get the home field advantage, but man, I'll tell you what, that just overwhelms so many things inside of high school. And it's just impossible to pull it off well.
Well, you're thinking St. Louis, that many people out here, you won't see that many people at a game. Not nearly that many. You will at the state tournament, maybe for,
That's what I'm saying. A semifinal or state final. Yeah. We get, teams will bust fans all over. What's that?
I want to go to more games. I mean, I had my gold card this year. We pay it every year, $50, and this year we just been so busy with everything we're doing. But and then there's a small college like right here. We have George Fox University, and they have good sports there. Go watch these local teams play for I think George Fox, it's $150, something like that, for a complete season pass for Judy and I.
Mm.
And that's every home game. So they probably have 6 of those. And it's not the NFL, but it's not high school either. These kids are pretty good, and
Sure.
it's fun to go. And it's right here in town. And then there's always your big schools. You know a lot from where you're from in St. Louis, but man, get yourself to an Oregon State game, an Oregon Duck game, a Portland State Vikings game. There's some pretty good sports out there being played.
Well, I'll tell you,
One
go
big
ahead.
one, gymnastics is really good. That's a top-notch program. I mean, we're spoiled. I want to go next year because I haven't seen them live, and they're good.
No, I was just gonna say that in Missouri, because the Kansas City and St. Louis, usually those teams always kind of meet, so they always bring huge followings. We kind of get the cross-state rivalry, but for the most part, it's just like here when you get, Lake, I don't know, Beaverton against, Medford. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a name there. You get 2 big cities and a lot of traditions, and people travel. People like doing that. So it's
Sure.
good to see people out there supporting all the kids and the teams and what have you. But
Absolutely.
we're gonna have to kind of roll it out here. But it was good to catch up with you. I need to get over there and get some more of those flapjacks. I was kind of getting a hankering for those a little bit.
Yeah, and we're getting this one ahead because Saturday we're out too. So gotta travel this
Be in
weekend.
for the Saturday after that then.
Yeah. Oh man, no. I gotta tell you though, yesterday I did make some flapjacks and sausage, and I made a breakfast. Was that today? Might have been today.
Today's Tuesday.
I think it was today.
Look at
But
you, Dave.
we really, Rob, appreciate you. It was fun to play golf all day Saturday, hang out more on a thing away from the studio, get to know a little bit more about you. It's fun to see you and Steve hit it off big time. That's funny. You guys have a lot in common too.
He's fun. He's a fun guy.
Funny guy.
I love his energy. He's got so much energy, man.
I was watching the 3 of you, how you do your warm-ups to go hit. Because I just walk up, put my club down, swing it.
Yeah.
No dicking around. Steve's got that little sideways thing he does, and then he looks, and then he comes around, and he's a pretty good golfer though. I love his draw and his game. It's I'm jealous because he's pretty consistent on that. But there were a couple times in there where I got a little irritated, like, come on guys, we got to pick up the pace. And then on the second 9, he got a little like, come on guys, we got to pick up the pace.
Yeah.
So, marking balls, everybody's got their different things. Steve is a ball marker guy. You gotta get your marker down there on that. You don't want to see that golf ball anywhere around him because it makes him nervous. He loses focus. So
Hey, to each their own, man. To each their own. You know what?
his own.
He was the best golfer of our group, so he could do whatever he wants, I guess, huh?
That's true. I guess he gets a mulligan for being the best golfer, but he would never take a mulligan because mulligans are for wusses. So
Yep.
that's why I counted every stroke on Saturday. It's painful when you hit a ball, 60 feet and you're killing yourself, or you hit it into the water and you got to drop and take another penalty and stuff.
Yeah.
But, Stevie boy on the golf course, man, you're playing by the rules.
Which is good. You need to have that. You can't be bending the rules. But
Yeah,
hey, Dave, we're gonna have to go and cut. We're gonna have to go cut this out here a little bit because I'm gonna have to get going. I know it's getting late. You want to go ahead and wrap it up?
Yeah, StandTallWithDaveBrown.com, producer Rob, producer Paige. We love you guys. Thank you for joining us. We got a lot more coming, a lot more stuff going to happen this year. And Paige and I always say, we're going to go Bible on you. We're going to pray for our show. If you're a praying person out there, pray for Stand Tall with Dave Brown. We want to bring the truth in politics, education, Jesus, sports, and people. That's our goal. And we want this to be a place you can trust to get the right information. So, Rob, we'll see you next time.
See you next time, Dave. I'm gonna end the stream, but hang on for a minute, okay?
Okay.